Let's talk about the newest value blaster out right now. This is the Nexus Pro X. If you hear Nexus Pro when you're talking about foam dart blasters, you're talking about a name that changed a lot of things. The original Nexus Pro allowed most consumers easy access to the half-length dart. Not only did it allow more access to people, it allowed us to buy these darts in bulk rather than ship them from overseas or get them on specialty order. And even in some cases, cutting Nerf darts in half. The Nexus Pro by Adventure Force, and when I say that, I mean Dartzone because they're the ones that made this. It's been years since that blaster came out. There have been a lot of changes in the foam dart space. The Nexus Pro X is either going to capitalize on some of those advancements over time, or is it going to stay stuck in the past with a really cool paint job? But first, let's get a look at the blaster and all the pieces that come with it. So you have the sight, you have the stock that fits on a buffer tube. It comes with 2 of these magazines. It has this foregrip right here, but the coolest thing that this comes with are these 2 barrels right here, well, barrel extensions, for a lack of a better term. This is the injection molded scar, and this is the B-car. So that's a lot of stuff for 50 bucks right there. You get a powerful blaster, of course, and like all the stuff that I just mentioned. So right there, we already have a fairly decent value, let alone the performance of this. There's also a secret compartment in the stock for snacks, or actually it's the extra O-ring in the back, but I like to think it's for snacks. It's got a sturdy feel. Like, the blaster feels sturdy, even more sturdy than the original Nexus Pro, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is only using half-length darts now. There's no adapter, there's no extra slot with the priming handle to accommodate the full-length darts as well. This is just a half-length dart blaster, full stop. There is no other way around it unless you start plugging darts one at a time in the barrel, which don't do that. Like, just use the stuff that it's intended for. Which you might think is a downgrade from the original Nexus, that it only uses half-length darts, but that's really not the case at all. It's been years since the original Nexus redefined things, so we have wider availability of just about everything that the Nexus first ushered in. There are plenty of readily available blasters that still have a foot in both worlds, but I think at this point it's safe to say if you're looking for something more performance-based, if you're looking for something a little more competitive, you're going half-dart only. It's just better optimized for the type of dart it uses. And it uses this guy right here. This is the Adventure Force Ember Dart. We've seen these multiple times. And that leads us to the first thing that I like about this blaster is the fact that it is optimized, like I've been talking about. Everything about this is geared for half-length darts. It's geared for power, it's geared for speed, it's geared for ability to upgrade, and things like that. It retains the same easy access spring in the back. It gives you some additional O-rings in case one of those blows out or the seal is bad for whatever reason. It's just optimized, right? Like, you have something that you know works for this, and not only that, this leads us into the next thing that I really like about it, is like the value for it. I have blasters that are hundreds of dollars. And throughout testing this and testing those other blasters, are there better things, better qualities to some of the more expensive blasters? Of course, but it's surprising and shocking just how well the Nexus Pro holds up to those blasters where you're dropping, you know, lots of money on just the core blaster. Then if you want options and accessories and better springs, like that's on top. This is just all contained within it. This is everything that you need inside of a box for a 2024 foam dart competitive world. And part of that world includes the Scar as well as the B-car. You'll notice that I have the B-car on here. It's just cool, right? Like, it's cool to have a readily available B-car. I have one from Worker, and this one here does the job just fine. And again, the fact that I got this in a $50 blaster box is amazing, right? Like, that's incredible. The one thing, though, this is one thing that I would like to see changed, is that there would be a shroud on the outside of the B-car. Because of the way that the bearings are exposed, if this gets put down in the sand, dirt, ground, there's unfortunately an opportunity for grit and stuff to get in there and make these less effective, which I'm guessing is why they also included this Scar barrel too. I mean, this is something that if it gets dirty, you just wash out, and it effectively does similar things. If I'm not mistaken, the benefit of having the B-car is that there's less friction, so you're not losing as much speed. What I've noticed about it, though, is like it doesn't matter too much unless you're actually clocking these with a chronograph. If we look at the Nexus Pro X, we can see that it's mostly purple, and the original Nexus Pro was just a completely orange blaster, and then later over time, there was something that actually looked like this digital, I called it the Miami Vice camo. There was a gold-plated one version, there was a blue version that was sent exclusively to a handful of people. There were like a lot of different Nexus Pros. It's an interesting choice that they chose the purple one, and especially reusing an old design. on it, which could lead to some confusion if people see the old Nexus Pro with this pattern on there. I don't think it's that significant where it's going to cause like way too much confusion, but it was interesting. Like usually when we have an evolution of a blaster or like the next version, they completely change it up just to make sure that it's clear that this is a brand new thing. But there is a difference though, because this version here has that printing technology that's printed right onto the plastic, whereas the other one had like different paint applications. And there's like a lot of cool texture here that again kind of gets hidden with some of that printing. You wouldn't realize that the carbon fiber area there has some texture, but it does, and it feels really nice. Let's put a couple darts in this thing and give it a try. Now, there's 2 mag releases on this thing. There's this one that I can pull back, and the mag drops, and they do a nice job at gravity dropping, or I could use my thumb with this hand and just pull it out. If we look in the mag well there, you can see that there is a skinny pusher kind of like system, and it really makes it easier. And again, this is one of those upgrades. It's an optimization from the original Nexus Pro that you had to prime back just a little bit, or you had to prime the whole thing and then fire a dart. Like it was a whole thing. Like this makes it so much easier. So we're gonna drop in 2 darts here. I really love the feel of these magazines. These feel great. And not only that, they're semi-translucent, so you can see that the darts leaving it, and then you kind of get an idea of when you are out of darts and you have to reload. So let's prime this here, and fire 1, and fire 2. And I tried to hit my net off screen a little bit there, but it just bounced right out. That's how powerful these things are. The one thing that I don't necessarily enjoy about the firing experience of this blaster is the angled foregrip at the front. It's just not my favorite style. But looking at it, I'm wondering if I were able to remove this, if it were a Picatinny style, that I would be able to maybe use a vertical foregrip, which is more of my preference. But it was a nice day recently, so I got this outside and I tried it a whole bunch. So here's just some footage of me firing this thing. You let me know what you think, and we'll loop back up afterwards and I'll give you my final thoughts. Overall, the Nexus Pro X is a fantastic blaster, just like the Nexus Pro before it. Originally, I was a little skeptical whether or not it could still redefine what foam dart blasting means for a majority of people. Again, this isn't going to replace those blasters that are hundreds of dollars or extremely customized or 3D printed. This is your off-the-shelf option to get into one of those games that are higher powered and be able to hang, go toe-to-toe in a lot of different cases. But I think the other thing we need to talk about there is like the fact that the original Nexus Pro was $50 when it first came out, and this is $50 when it came out. It's amazing that they've been able to keep that through line with the price point. I mean, we've been seeing the price of everything going up. Toys, action figures, blasters even. Like, everything's been going up, but the fact that they still were able to get the Nexus Pro X at the same price as the launch Nexus Pro is something to, like, celebrate, I think, because there's a lot going on here that is better than the Nexus Pro and very smartly designed. So again, this is another winner for dartzone with this style of blaster. They have really carved out that niche of competitive performance blasters, and this is just going to make people who bought in with the Nexus Pro and have been using that for the whole time, allow them to upgrade to something that truly feels like a worthy successor. Are there some kinks to iron out with this blaster for the Nexus Pro X2? But I think with this, we have a good base that we can make those slight modifications to it, and it will be that blaster for you that you can tweak and modify until the next version of this comes out. But I think that's it for the Nexus Pro X. There is a lot to talk about with this blaster, as I set it down there, and you know, I can't say enough good things about it. And if you are, this is gonna fall over. If you're somebody who's contemplating that jump to more competitive, more performance-based foam dart games, like, this is a good time to get in. And if you're somebody who already has a Nexus Pro, then I think it's a safe time to upgrade the Nexus Pro to the Nexus Pro X. If you're somebody who has blasters that are like hundreds of dollars, Worker Swift, Harrier, the Seagull, things like that, like, you may not need a Nexus Pro X. Is it cool? Absolutely, but it doesn't really replace those higher end things. It's just a great complement and a great value option to add within that space. If you got to this point of the video and you like things like blasters, if you like collectibles, pop culture things, G.I. Joes, action figures, collectibles, generally in the 6-inch scale, be sure to follow along to catch the next videos as they happen. That way you don't miss anything. So thank you so much for watching. That's it. We'll see you next time.